The 5th season of PJ Masks aired from August 13, 2021 to November 18, 2022. Initially, I was looking forward to the new season airing, but every episode I got less and less involved. Years later, I learned that my experience wasn't original in the slightest. Season 5 was widely considered in the PJ Masks fandom to be the worst season. So, what went wrong? Well, for the first time since the season aired, I rewatched all of Season 5 to figure out what exactly happened to make the season so bad. Let me tell you, it was not a fun watch. It took me several tries to even get started because I was so bored immediately going into it. PJ Masks is not a show without its faults, obviously, but Season 5 is especially bad. The season kicks off with a 2-part episode about Night Ninja studying the PJ Masks' powers so he can steal them. This episode puts a huge focus on the PJ pets, which is kind of a strange choice to say the least. The PJ Masks gain new powers and also these lame stalker gadgets which are rarely ever used again. It's not a bad episode, but it's not phenomenal either, especially as a season opener. And this trend of mid-episodes unfortunately carries throughout the rest of the season. In the second episode of the season, Luna and Matsuki begin a feud that leaves Luna stranded on Earth for the whole season. This seemed like a very deliberate story decision, and you'd think that this arc would be important to Luna or Matsuki's character development, but the very next time Luna shows up, she spends a whole episode fighting with Matsuki and trying to get back to the moon. This trend unfortunately continues throughout the season. The whole season. In the 7th episode of the season, Romeo creates a failed experiment that turns into a plant girl named Ortisha. Her whole thing is that she loves growing plants and will defend them if they are threatened. The PJ Masks immediately classify her as a villain, even though she's like an infant. Ortisha only appears in 4 more episodes before the show drops her character entirely, because you know, what else can you do with her? In the 8th episode, yes, directly after Ortisha made her debut, Pirate Robot is introduced. Ironically, Pirate Robot is also a failed Romeo invention. I didn't realize how lame this was until I said it just now. And appears in a whopping 8 episodes of the season. Every episode Pirate Robot appears in has the Pirate Power logo in the title card, which is never really explained. In the 14th episode, Carly and Kartaka, aka the Speedy Twins, are introduced in a 2-part episode. They're alien villains from another dimension called Zoomzania, and they destroy the PJ Masks' vehicles for parts to use in their Flash car. The PJ Masks immediately replace their vehicles with, trigger warning, the PJ Riders, and starting with this episode, every episode featuring these characters have an Animal Power logo in the title card. Once again, never explained, it's just a weird random thing that happens. After many exciting episodes such as Night Ninja harvests Zoom Crystals, Pirate Robot asks the PJ Masks to help him get his stolen hat back from Night Ninja, and the PJ Riders turn out to be complete assholes who sabotage the entire mission. Luna and Matsuki spontaneously make up in the last episode, and that's it. That's the end of the season. The main issue I found with the season was surprisingly not entirely with the writing itself, but with the characters. Not only did Season 5 nerf Luna and Matsuki as characters entirely, but the new characters introduced were just not interesting at all. The only motive of the Speedy Twins is to drive fast. I wish I was making this up.
We're fast! That's all you need to know.
Every episode they're in is just about them racing. They can't even be classified as villains in my opinion. They just remind me more of the Wolfies, who cause trouble but don't really do much other than that. I find it so strange that Ortisha and Pirate Robot were introduced so close together with almost the same backstory. I'm pretty sure Ortisha has the least episodes of any character in the show, and Pirate Robot for some reason appears in 8 episodes, which is insane for a character who really doesn't have that much substance. He's a neutral character who does nothing but get into shenanigans, and it's strange that they tried to make him such a major character. And of course, we have the PJ Pets and the PJ Riders. I feel like the show was trying to incorporate the spirit animals from the books somehow, but if so, they did a horrible job at it. The PJ Pets are essentially just Gecko's pet lizard, a stray cat, and a random owl that Catboy refers to as their spirit animals. Confusingly, the owl is the 3rd bird in the show to represent Owlette's powers. They're supposed to act as guides for the PJ Masks and possess PJ power for some reason, but they really just don't do much at all, and frankly they get in the way of the plot in my opinion. Y'all already know how I feel about the PJ Riders. Destroying the PJ Masks' vehicles and replacing them with badly designed animals that are pretty much useless was completely unnecessary and probably done only to sell toys, which is hilarious because I could not find any merch of them. I'm honestly still confused on the Pirate Power and Animal Power logos. I seriously have no idea what they mean or how they're supposed to set those episodes apart from other episodes. It almost seemed like they were attempting to throw a miniseries right into the middle of the show, and it didn't work. I also find it so weird how so many episode plots were repeated over and over and over to death. It's normal for PJ Masks to repeat a plot or two every once in a while, but every time Luna showed up, she was just trying to get back to the moon. Every episode that featured the PJ Riders focused heavily on them being unhelpful and uncontrollable. Every episode that the the Speedy Twins were in was just a race. I'm not even exaggerating. And this was all in one season. When they weren't repeating the same plots over and over, they were making entire episodes about a bird, or a shrimp, or Pirate Robot losing his hat. This season completely lost the plot, and it shows. However, it wasn't all bad. The first obvious strength of the season is the animation. While the rigging is a bit off and the whole squash and stretch thing is a bit experimental, the animation is killer regardless. The show is alive compared to previous seasons. Believe it or not, the animation somehow gets even better in season 6. And of course, not every episode was bad. I was surprised to see quite a few episodes with good plots, mainly because they focused on good characters. Many of the episodes surrounding Octobella, Mystery Mountain, and Pharaoh Boy were pretty high quality episodes, further proving my point that the problem wasn't with the writing, it was with the characters. It's sad that the season suffered from so many lackluster characters that could have been improved by adding more specific and varied motivations, because the episodes that focused on dynamic and established characters really weren't bad at all. We've talked about PJ Masks going overboard with new characters before, but I really don't think it would be as much of a problem if these characters were more fleshed out and appeared more sporadically throughout the show. There's really nothing wrong with introducing new characters to keep the show alive, but what matters is how you execute them. I mentioned earlier how the Speedy Twins have no motive other than racing. The dimension they come from is quite literally a desolate wasteland with a racetrack, and if you drive fast enough you hatch zoom crystals, which in turn make you go faster. I don't think merely having a simple hobby is enough to justify entire episodes surrounding this idea, so if I was going to keep these characters, I would redesign them in their home dimension with just a few more character traits. I think adding character traits would give them a little bit more specific motives that would help carry the plot forward. I don't think there was anything wrong with including Morticia in the show because she is a character directly from the books, but was it necessary? I'm not sure. I actually think it was a good call for them to take her off the show after realizing that her character wouldn't serve more than a few episodes. However, they gave Pirate Robot way more episodes than he deserved. 8 episodes is insane for a character who's made to be silly without any clear motives. I know I've criticized Night Ninja before for having unclear motivations and repetitive plots, but he always has a big plan and that's what drives the story forward. There's nothing wrong with having a silly random character like Monkey Goo on the show once in a while, but 8 whole episodes in a season is just overkill for plots with virtually no substance. As for the PJ writers, they were completely unnecessary. Destroying the PJ Masks vehicles was probably just done for shock value and didn't need to happen, and most likely was only to introduce the writers to sell merchandise. I didn't think the animals needed to be in the show whatsoever. They really didn't bring anything to the show, and their designs are so awful. The new powers and gadgets seemed unnecessary too, and I honestly forgot they existed. To my knowledge, they don't even carry to the next season. Despite how I feel about animal characters in the show and how they don't need to be the focus of any episode, I actually think it would be possible to rewrite the PJ Pets. If they were magical beings who actually helped the PJ Masks in times of crisis and weren't just tag-along stray animals who got in the way of the episode, I think it could have worked. A big problem with season 5 was the pacing. PJ Masks has a habit of clumping episodes featuring specific characters together, and it really doesn't look good. I think I would have been a lot less annoyed at characters like Pirate Robot had his episodes been spaced out throughout the season instead of the show feeling like a Pirate Robot marathon. Giving more focus to established primary characters rather than throwaway side characters would have given the season a lot more depth and quality. Finally, Luna and Matsuki's feud wouldn't have been an issue if it had existed for a reason. The arc essentially was like, Luna and Matsuki get in an argument, fight the whole season, and make up at the end. If either of them had gained character development during the season instead of spending every episode repeating the same plot, I feel like it would have been a lot more rewarding and felt a lot less like Groundhog Day. It really seemed like the show was setting up for a Luna redemption arc since they separated her from Matsuki, but I think that may have been retconned due to the incoming debut of the next season. Thankfully, the next season Power Heroes was a big improvement. I still have my gripes with some of the changes, and I don't think they needed a bunch of new characters after introducing so many, but the way they utilized their characters was significantly less bad than the way Season 5 did it. I'm not sure what happened with Season 5, but I'm glad it was just a temporary dip in quality. It wasn't even all bad. Like I said, I enjoyed several episodes in the season. I just think it could have been improved with more interesting characters and more varied subplots. As always, these are just my opinions. If you liked the season, good for you. If you didn't like it, why not? Let me know what your favorite season is in the comments and why. Kevin out.